Hello, I'm Kochanski, Wilderness Living Skills and Survival Instructor. We're making a series of videos of many primitive aspects of living in pioneering days and in some situations borders on survival. Today we have here a simple forge with no moving parts, so you just have to be able to afford to find a stovepipe of sufficient length. In the past, I've actually used 48-ounce juice cans that were sort of wired together to create the pipe. And if you have a pipe, the hot air starts to evolve when you light the fire, and a suction or draft is created so that the charcoal that needs the extra draft will begin to glow. And when it glows enough, in a chunk of iron, in this case a big old spike, will get hot enough to be able to forge. So we have a tripod that supports the pipe. The pipe is sitting there loosely. When you try to light a fire, we're finding that the suction is so great that it's hard to light a fire, so we have this little addition that initially gets enough heat going that when the draw is created, the twigs will burn, and we will light this at this point and get the fire going. Get it going well here before the draw of the pipe is brought into play. There we want the grass is compressed a little, so it's almost like working with a stove. Here, let's see if a little bit of draw will help us. And once the twigs start burning and some of the heat goes up the chimney, at first we want a bit of a fire to initiate the movement of air up the chimney. Soon we'll see the smoke being drawn in, and then the flames will be sucked in towards where we want it. Put on a pair of gloves since burns are easily and with a little patience we'll I think we have a good fire going, and we see some of the draw beginning. It goes without saying that a person who does things like that has to spend some time fiddle-faddling and learning the ropes, playing with this. Now we hear the draw occurring. And if you have it set, all the flames will be drawn into the pipe and won't be put out. There. There's like a jet taking off. And there we have some glowing material, and we take charcoal that has been sifted out of our wood ashes from our wood stove, or you can purposely make your own charcoal to get a mass of glowing material. We'll add charcoal periodically, and you can hear the draw slow down if you've obstructed the pipe a little too much, so you gotta give it room to draw. Charcoal starts to glow immediately, and you're adding it constantly. And when we see a glowing area begin to develop, we will pound out the end of this needle, the end of this nail, perhaps as if to make a drill bit or an arrowhead. You don't want to have it on the bottom, and you want to have it on top. You want it sort of buried in the glowing coals. As the coals and the burning twigs get used up, the sound is reduced, but there's enough draft to keep the charcoal glowing red. And you sort of adjust and twiddle. And there we have a situation that chunk of iron or steel that's buried in the coals should be, in a few minutes, should be glowing red, with the glowing being transferred from the coals to the metal. And I'm sure that if we play with this, we can get such a draw that it'll burn the iron, but right now we can generate heats that will allow us to do some simple forge work. We have any hammer, which is probably one of the things you might have to buy, is a heavy hammer. Just about everything else can be made. If you have an anvil and a thing called a hardy, which we don't have here just yet, you can make just about anything, or an awful lot of things. So first thing you often do is you set up the forge and build all your tongs and other devices that you might be using. The nail might be getting so hot that even handling it with gloves might be too hot. We'll take a little look to see how that end is coming. It's not glowing just yet. Initially, to get it started, you need a little since there isn't very much flame growing up the pipe, you don't hear a roar as much, because the glowing coal, open flame is so hot, but a glowing coal is 3.5 times hotter. And if you bury rocks or iron or whatever in a mass of glowing coals, the glowing will be transferred eventually, and the iron and the rock will glow to the same extent as the coals are. But it takes a little while to transfer that condition. Yeah, we have in some situations is that closed by any chance? No, it's wide open. Sometimes if you fail the draw, especially in a wood stove, and you don't have a butterfly valve, then one way of controlling the draw through the pipe is to have a can that has the bottom cut as a flap and a wire arranged so that you can open or close. And here we have a long device that can allow you to hook a ring. And over here if we want to open it, we push it up to open it more, as you see there, or if we want to close it, we'll gently close it and see what the consequences are. Here I can actually hear the draw slow down. So you can control it in a way when you can't get a hold of when you can't. Butterfly valves for such small pipe are not commonly available. You probably have to build your own in any rate, or use this method, which I've used many times in there's so many tag ends I've looked at this. There it's wide open. And I hear a nice draw, but you have this means of controlling this. And you notice I am constantly feeding The charcoal is very light. There's a lot of energy in it, and I'm constantly feeding this. And we'll examine the metal. As you can see, it is daylight glow. It has got a workable glow for hammering, and we have no problem in softening the metal up enough to when you don't have the opportunity for making or sifting out charcoal out of these come from my wood stove. When I collect the ashes in a barrel, and when the barrel is full, then I sift out the nails and other sort of things and the big lumps of charcoal. Otherwise, we have the charcoal briquettes, which if you have nothing but charcoal briquettes, you might be choosing perhaps a slightly larger diameter of pipe, and you do the same with the briquettes. But we might find that the glow we achieve with charcoal, it can be fairly impressive, and it seems that charcoal briquettes are a little slower. Perhaps if they were broken up into smaller pieces, we might get a greater draw. So we crumble them up a little bit into such massive pieces. Now you can make forges and bellows. That will come in time in our series on primitive skills, and we might engage in making superior charcoal, which is much the same way as making pine tar out of resin saturated pine and birch bark tar out of the bark itself by cooking it in a metal container. And so we have here the introduction to simple blacksmithing, using something as simple as a tall chimney to create the draft. I will pound it a little bit more. End up making a spoon. Now with the action we're getting there, as you can see clearly, that's the mini forge. My experience, quite functional. You'll do a lot of small things: awls, strikers for flint and steel, drill bits. Oh, I have to stop and think. Tweezers. There's probably about 50 things that you could be building because you have this means of creating a draft, as simple and as small as it is. And I guess our greater, we want more room, we'll have to use bigger pipe. But the hobbyist would probably find that this appears to be a minimal working size. Of effort to get the fire going, so you put down some paper and some twigs, and then some finer coal, and then you start with the air. And if you put enough twigs and enough paper, then the coal starts to burn. And then you start adding more coal. But what you do is you have a pail of coal, and it's full of water. And you're dipping that wet coal and putting it on. And it actually causes explosions. So you would think that water would slow things down. but actually it really makes the coal work even better. And that's sort of counterintuitive to some way people's of thinking. As a little kid, I had to always crank the forge for my father, and I saw all these things, and by the time I was probably grade 2 or 3, I knew all kinds of things, like you mix water with coal to make a forge go, which, whatever. Yeah, this, I would say that there might even be an improvement of draw, having too long a pipe. Maybe there is, you know, and gases go through a pipe. There's a kind of, just like playing music, the length of the pipe has a lot to do with the nodes and various other things. So you could actually have a pipe that's so long that the draw is not really improved. And having removed, looks like 3 feet a meter of pipe has actually proven that you don't need so much pipe. Thereby you don't have to go to the expense of buying pipe where it doesn't play any useful role. And like everything else, you can do too much of a good thing or too little of a good thing. And I can see that the nail is again brought up to a gentle glow. That will make it workable. Here we're using nails, which the iron in nails, I think what you have is suitable for many projects, and you can get nails very readily in larger sizes, so depending on the type of drill bit you want to make and so on. But one metal my father really liked was rebar. He made everything out of rebar that where the size of rebar was suitable, and in particular making chisels for working steels, because here we could have a chisel for cutting things off, because we don't have a hardy, which is like a chisel that's set upright and you pound down towards the cutting edge rather than taking and pounding on the other end like you do with a regular chisel. And that's an important device, is some means of cutting. Like this has its cutting thing, and that when you tilt this and this has been ground right, then you use it for cutting off sections. If it's more massive, like finger thick stuff, you might want something more like a hardy, but if you are working with various size nails, this is more than sufficient to lay the part that you want cut off and then cut it by doing that. Charcoal goes very fast because it's soft charcoal, mostly aspen, I would say, so you got to expect that you got to be, whereas blacksmithing coal would go 5 times, 10 times as long.